The morning Austin Fletcher found the Heavyset girl standing in his barn doorway, September sunlight streaming through the slats behind her. He had been contemplating selling his ranch and leaving Rico, Colorado for good. He straightened from mucking the stall, pitchfork in hand, sweat already darkening his shirt despite the early hour. The girl stood there with a carpet bag clutched in both hands, her round face flushed from exertion or embarrassment, he could not tell which. She wore a plain brown dress that strained across her generous curves, and her dark hair was pulled back severely beneath a bonnet that had seen better days. What struck him most, though, were her eyes. Large and brown and filled with such apprehension that his first instinct was to set down his tool and wipe his hands on his trousers. "Can I help you, miss?" Austin asked, his voice rougher than he intended after hours of silence. The girl swallowed visibly. "Are you Austin Fletcher?" "I am." "My name is Delilah Carson. Mr. Thompson from the town council sent me. He said you needed help with the household work since your mother passed." Her voice was soft, almost musical, though it trembled slightly. "I am to work for room and board if you will have me." Austin felt his jaw tighten. George Thompson had been pestering him for weeks about hiring help, but Austin had refused every suggestion. He preferred solitude to company, especially after burying his mother 3 months prior. The loneliness of the ranch suited his grief. Now Thompson had taken matters into his own hands, apparently, and sent this girl without even asking. "I did not request anyone," Austin said, not unkindly. He was 26 years old and had been managing on his own just fine. "Thank you very much." Delilah's face fell and she looked down at her worn boots. "Oh, I apologize for the intrusion. Mr. Thompson said it was all arranged. I walked 2 days to get here from Telluride. My aunt threw me out, you see, and I had nowhere else to go. Mr. Thompson knew her, and he wrote saying there was work here if I wanted it." She paused, then added quietly, "But I understand if you do not need me. I will go back to town and find something else." The defeat in her voice made Austin hesitate. 2 days walking from Telluride meant she had come over difficult terrain with that small bag as her only possession. Her boots were nearly worn through, he noticed, and there was a rawness to her hands that spoke of hard work and harder circumstances. He thought of his mother, who had always insisted that kindness cost nothing and could mean everything. "You walked from Telluride alone?" he asked. "Yes, sir. I stayed in a church the first night. The reverend was kind enough to let me sleep in the back room." Austin sighed and thrust his fingers through his dark hair. He needed help. Truly he did. The house had fallen into disarray, and he spent so much time tending the horses and cattle that he barely had time to cook decent meals. He just had not wanted to admit it, had not wanted another person in his mother's space, touching her things, reminding him of the emptiness. But looking at Delilah Carson standing there in the barn doorway with everything she owned in one bag, he could not bring himself to turn her away. "Come on then," he said, gesturing toward the house. "I will show you where you will sleep. We can discuss the arrangement over breakfast. Have you eaten?" The relief that flooded Delilah's face was answer enough, but she said, "Not since yesterday afternoon, sir." "Austin," he corrected. "If you are going to be living here, no need for formalities. And I apologize in advance for the state of the house. I have let things slide." She followed him across the dusty yard to the 2-story ranch house his father had built 20 years ago. Austin had been born in the upstairs bedroom, had learned to ride before he could properly walk, had buried both parents in the small cemetery on the hill overlooking the valley. This land was in his blood, even if lately it felt more like a burden than a blessing. Inside, the house was indeed a mess. Dishes were piled in the basin, dust coated every surface, and Austin's clothes were strewn across furniture. He saw Delilah take it all in without comment, though her fingers twitched as if already itching to clean. "The spare room is upstairs, first door on the left," Austin said. "It was my mother's sewing room. There is a bed in there and a chest of drawers. You can put your things there and freshen up if you like. I will make us some eggs and coffee." "I can do that," Delilah said quickly. "Please let me. It is what I am here for." Austin started to protest, then stopped himself. If she wanted to cook, who was he to argue? All right, the stove is temperamental. You have to jiggle the left burner to get it going properly. Delilah set her bag down and immediately set to work. Austin watched as she moved around the kitchen with surprising grace despite her size, her movements economical and practiced. She found the eggs in the cold box, the coffee beans in the cupboard, the skillet hanging by the stove. Within minutes, she had a fire going and coffee brewing, and the smell alone made Austin's stomach growl. He sat at the table and watched her work. There was something soothing about it, he realized. Something that filled the silence in a way that did not hurt. When she set a plate in front of him 10 minutes later, the eggs were perfectly cooked, and she had even found the bread he had bought in town 3 days ago and toasted it over the fire. "This is good," Austin said after the first bite. "Really good." Delilah had made herself a small portion and sat across from him, eating delicately despite what must have been real hunger. "Thank you. I have been cooking since I was small. My mother taught me before she died." "When did you lose her?" "I was 12. My father died when I was born. My aunt took me in after that, but she never really wanted me." Delilah said this matter-of-factly without self-pity, which somehow made it worse. "She said I ate too much, cost too much. When her husband died last month, she told me I had to leave. She is selling the house and moving in with her daughter in Denver. There was no room for me." Austin felt a familiar ache in his chest. Loss and abandonment, he understood those. "I am sorry. It is all right. I have been on my own before. I will manage." Delilah met his eyes across the table, and again he was struck by something in her gaze. A steadiness, a quiet strength. "Mr. Thompson said you raise horses here." "Quarter horses, mostly. Some for ranch work, some for racing. My father started the breeding program 30 years ago. We have good bloodlines." Austin heard the pride in his own voice and was surprised by it. He had not felt proud of anything in months. "I have always loved horses," Delilah said softly. "Though I have not ridden much, my aunt thought it was unladylike. I will teach you if you want. Part of living out here means knowing how to ride. Town is 5 miles away, too far to walk every time you need something." Delilah's face lit up. "I would like that very much." They finished breakfast in companionable silence, and Austin found himself relaxing in a way he had not since his mother's death. When they were done, Delilah immediately began clearing the dishes and heating water for washing. Austin tried to help, but she shooed him away. "You have ranch work to do," she said firmly. "Let me handle the house. That is our agreement." So Austin returned to the barn, to the horses that needed feeding and training and the stalls that needed mucking. But throughout the morning, he found his thoughts drifting to the girl in his kitchen, to the softness of her voice and the sadness in her eyes that she tried so hard to hide. By midday, when he came in for lunch, the transformation was remarkable. The kitchen gleamed, the dishes were washed and put away, and the smell of soup filled the air. Delilah had found his mother's apron and rolled up her sleeves, and there was a smudge of flour on her cheek that made her look younger than her years. "How old are you, if you do not mind my asking?" Austin said as he washed his hands at the pump. 21, Delilah replied. "And you?" 26. She ladled soup into bowls, thick with vegetables and chunks of salt pork she must have found in the pantry. "I hope this is all right." I found a lot of things that needed using before they went bad. It is more than all right. I have been living on jerky and stale bread for weeks." Austin sat down and tasted the soup. It was delicious, seasoned with herbs he did not even know he had. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" "My mother was French," Delilah said. "She came to America with her family when she was young. She taught me all her recipes. My aunt hated that I cooked French style. She said it was too fancy, too much trouble, but I like making food that tastes good, that makes people happy." "Well, you are making me happy," Austin said, and meant it. "I cannot remember the last time I had a proper meal." Delilah blushed and looked down at her bowl. Austin noticed how the color made her eyes brighter, how it softened the plain lines of her face into something almost pretty. Not beautiful in the conventional sense, perhaps, but there was something about her that drew his eye. After lunch, Austin taught Delilah how to feed the chickens and collect eggs, how to pump water from the well, where he kept the tools and supplies. She absorbed everything quickly, asking smart questions and taking mental notes. When they passed by the paddock where his prize mare was grazing, Delilah stopped and stared. "She is beautiful," she breathed. The mare was beautiful indeed, a dappled gray with an arched neck and intelligent eyes. Austin had raised her from a foal, and she was the finest horse he had ever bred. "Her name is Silver Bell. She is due to foal in the spring. May I pet her?" Austin opened the gate and whistled. Silver Bell trotted over immediately, nosing at his pockets for treats. He pulled out an apple slice and fed it to her, then gestured for Delilah to hold out her hand. "Palm flat, fingers together. Let her smell you first." Delilah did as instructed, and Silver Bell snuffled at her hand before accepting the apple slice Austin gave her to offer. Delilah's laugh was pure delight. "Oh, she is so soft. She likes you," Austin observed. Silver Bell was usually skittish with strangers, but she stood calmly as Delilah stroked her neck. "Animals can sense things about people. She knows you are gentle." "I try to be," Delilah said quietly. "The world has enough harshness in it already." Austin found himself agreeing. He showed her the rest of the horses, 12 in total, each with their own personality and quirks. Delilah listened to every word, her face glowing with interest. By the time they finished the tour, the sun was lowering toward the mountains that ringed the valley. "I should start on dinner," Delilah said. "What would you like?" "Whatever you want to make, I trust your judgment." Austin hesitated, then added, "Thank you, Delilah, for coming here. I did not think I wanted help, but I am glad you are here." Her smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Thank you for giving me a chance. A lot of people would not have, looking at me." Austin frowned. "What do you mean?" Delilah gestured at herself, at her round body and plain face. "I know what I look like. My aunt reminded me every day. Fat, she called me. Unmarriageable. A burden. She said no man would ever want me, that I was lucky she kept me as long as she did." Anger flashed through Austin, hot and sudden. "Your aunt sounds like a cruel woman." She was bitter. Her life did not turn out the way she wanted. Delilah shrugged, but Austin could see the hurt beneath the acceptance. "I stopped listening to her after a while, but other people say similar things. I see how they look at me." "Then they are fools," Austin said firmly. "You have been here less than a day, and already this place feels more like a home than it has in months. Your size has nothing to do with your worth." Delilah's eyes filled with tears, which she quickly blinked away. "That is kind of you to say." "It is not kind. It is true." Austin meant every word. There was something about this girl, this soft-spoken, gentle-souled girl, that touched something deep inside him. Something he had thought died with his mother. That night, after a dinner of roasted chicken and vegetables that made Austin groan with pleasure, they sat on the porch and watched the stars come out. The September air was cool but not yet cold. carrying the scent of sage and pine from the mountains. Delilah had brought out coffee and they sipped it in comfortable silence. "What happened to your mother?" Delilah asked eventually. "If you do not mind talking about it." "Pneumonia," Austin said. "It came on fast. 1 week she was fine, the next she could barely breathe. The doctor from town came, but there was nothing he could do. She died in her sleep on a Sunday morning." He paused, swallowing hard. "My father died 5 years ago, thrown from a horse, broke his neck. After that it was just Ma and me, and now it is just me." "I am so sorry," Delilah said softly. "It must be terribly lonely." "It has been. I threw myself into the work, trying not to think about it, but the house felt so empty. Everything reminded me of her." Austin looked at Delilah in the dim light from the kitchen window. "It still does, but having you here helps. Does that sound strange?" "No, it sounds like you needed someone to share the space with, to make new memories alongside the old ones." Delilah set her coffee cup down. "I will try to be worthy of that, of this chance you are giving me." "You already are," Austin said. Over the following days, a routine developed. Austin would rise before dawn to tend the horses, and Delilah would have coffee and breakfast ready when he came in. She cleaned the house from top to bottom, mended his clothes, baked bread that filled the whole ranch with its scent. In the afternoons, Austin taught her to ride on an old gelding named Rusty, patient and steady. Delilah proved to be a natural, her fear quickly giving way to joy. "I love it," she exclaimed one afternoon, cantering around the paddock with her face flushed and her hair coming loose from its pins. "I feel like I am flying." Austin watched from the fence rail, smiling despite himself. He could not remember the last time he had smiled so much. Delilah had a way of finding joy in small things, and it was contagious. When she laughed, which was often, the sound made something warm unfold in his chest. He was falling for her. Austin realized one evening as they worked together in the barn. She was brushing down Rusty while Austin repaired a bridle, and she was humming under her breath, some French song her mother had taught her. The lamplight caught the curve of her cheek, the fullness of her lips, and Austin felt a jolt of attraction so strong it nearly knocked him sideways. She was beautiful, not despite her size, but simply beautiful in her own right. The kindness in her eyes, the gentleness of her hands, the way she moved with quiet confidence when she thought no one was watching. Austin had known conventionally pretty girls in town, girls who turned heads and knew it, but none of them had ever affected him like this. "What are you looking at?" Delilah asked, catching him staring. "You," Austin said honestly. "I was thinking how glad I am that George Thompson sent you here." Delilah blushed and returned to brushing. "I am glad too. This is the happiest I have been in years, maybe ever. Really, I feel safe here, wanted, like I matter." She paused, then added, "You make me feel that way." Austin set down the bridle and crossed to where she stood. Rusty snorted softly but did not move. "You do matter, Delilah, more than you know." She looked up at him, and Austin saw his own feelings reflected in her eyes. Longing, hope, fear. He raised a hand slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Her skin was soft as silk. "Austin," she whispered. "I know this is sudden," he said. "I know you have only been here 2 weeks, but I have to tell you the truth. I am developing feelings for you. Real feelings. And if that makes you uncomfortable, if you want to keep things purely professional, I will respect that. But I had to tell you." Delilah's eyes widened. "You have feelings for me, truly. But I am not. I mean, look at me. I am not the kind of woman men have feelings for." Austin shook his head. "You are exactly the kind of woman I have feelings for. You are kind and strong and talented. You make this house feel like a home again. You make me laugh. When I wake up in the morning, I look forward to seeing you." He took a breath. "You are beautiful, Delilah. I wish you could see yourself the way I see you." A tear rolled down her cheek, and Austin wiped it away with his thumb. "No one has ever said such things to me," she said. "I do not know what to say." "You do not have to say anything. I just wanted you to know." Delilah set down the brush and stepped closer. She was shorter than him by nearly a foot, and she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "I have feelings for you too," she said. "I have tried not to. I told myself it was foolish, that you were just being kind because you are a good man. But when I am near you, my heart beats faster. When you smile at me, I feel like the luckiest person alive. I have never felt this way before." Austin's heart soared. He cupped her face in both hands, marveling at how perfectly she fit in his palms. "May I kiss you, please?" Delilah breathed. He lowered his mouth to hers slowly, savoring the moment. Her lips were soft and warm, and she tasted faintly of the apple pie she had baked that afternoon. The kiss was gentle, questioning, and when Delilah's hands came up to grip his shirt, pulling him closer, Austin felt something click into place. This was right. She was right. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Delilah was smiling. "Oh my," she said. "Oh my indeed." Austin rested his forehead against hers. "I am going to court you properly, Delilah Carson. I am going to take you to town dances and church socials. I am going to introduce you to my friends and tell everyone who will listen how lucky I am. And if you will have me, eventually I am going to marry you." "Eventually," Delilah teased. "How long is eventually?" "However long you need. I am a patient man." "What if I do not need very long?" Austin pulled back to look at her. "Are you saying what I think you are saying?" "I am saying that I have never been happier than I am right now in this moment with you. I am saying that I know my own heart and it belongs to you. I am saying yes, Austin Fletcher. Yes to courting, yes to marriage, yes to whatever life we can build together." Austin kissed her again, deeper this time, pouring all his feelings into it. When they broke apart, both were grinning like fools. "We should probably tell people," Austin said. "Make it official." "Will they be surprised?" "Probably. I have not courted anyone seriously since I was 20. But I do not care what they think. The only opinion that matters to me is yours." They walked back to the house hand in hand, and Austin marveled at how natural it felt. How right. Inside, they sat at the kitchen table and talked late into the night, sharing stories and dreams and fears. Delilah told him about her childhood, about her mother's gentle guidance and her aunt's cruelty. Austin told her about growing up on the ranch, about his father's high expectations and his mother's unconditional love. "I want to make you happy," Delilah said as midnight approached. "I want to be a good wife to you. You already make me happy just by being yourself." Austin lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. "We are going to have a good life, Delilah. I promise you that." The next Sunday, Austin hitched up the wagon and drove them into Rico for church services. The town was small, just a few hundred souls, but it bustled with activity. Rico had started as a mining town during the silver boom of the 1870s, and though the mines were less productive now in 1882, enough ore still came out of the mountains to keep the town alive. The main street boasted a general store, a saloon, a hotel, a doctor's office, and the small white church where the community gathered each week. Austin helped Delilah down from the wagon, noting how the townspeople stared. He kept his hand on the small of her back as they walked into the church, a clear signal that she was with him. George Thompson, a portly man with a graying beard, approached immediately. "Fletcher, good to see you. I trust Miss Carson arrived safely." "She did, and I owe you my thanks," Austin said. "She has been a tremendous help," George beamed. "Excellent. I knew you two would get along. Your mother, God rest her soul, asked me to look out for you before she passed. She worried about you being alone out there." Austin had not known that, and the information touched him. His mother had been thinking of his welfare even on her deathbed. She was a wise woman. Indeed she was. George glanced at Delilah, then back at Austin, his expression shrewd. "Though I sense Miss Carson has become more than just hired help." "She has," Austin confirmed. "I am courting her, officially." George's smile widened. "Wonderful news. Congratulations to you both." The service was pleasant, though Austin barely heard a word of it. He was too aware of Delilah sitting beside him, her shoulder brushing his, her voice soft as she sang the hymns. After the service, he introduced her to his friends and neighbors, and if anyone had uncharitable thoughts about her appearance, they kept them to themselves. Most seemed genuinely pleased for him, congratulating them both and welcoming Delilah to the community. The town dance was held that evening in the barn behind the general store. Lanterns were strung from the rafters, casting golden light over the assembled crowd. A fiddle player, a guitarist, and a man with a harmonica provided music, and couples whirled across the floor in energetic reels and slower waltzes. Delilah hung back at first, watching the dancers with longing but not moving to join them. Austin took her hand. "Dance with me," he said. "I am not very good," she warned, "and I am afraid I will step on your feet." "Then step on my feet. I do not care." Austin led her onto the floor as a waltz began. He placed one hand on her waist and took her other hand in his, guiding her into the steps. She was stiff at first, nervous, but gradually she relaxed and let him lead. They moved together across the floor, and Austin realized she was not clumsy at all. She was graceful, her movements fluid despite her size. "You are a natural," he murmured in her ear. "I like this," Delilah admitted. "I have never danced with anyone before. My aunt said I was too heavy, that I would embarrass myself." "Your aunt was wrong about a great many things." They danced 3 more songs, and Austin could feel the eyes of the town on them. "Let them look," he thought. "Let them see how happy we are." When the music finally stopped for a break, he led Delilah outside for some air. The night was cool and clear, stars scattered across the sky like diamonds. "Are you having a good time?" Austin asked. "The best time. Thank you for bringing me." Delilah leaned against the wall of the barn, her face flushed from dancing. "Everyone has been so kind. They can see how special you are," a voice interrupted them. "Well, well, Austin Fletcher with a woman, never thought I would see the day." Austin turned to find Marcus Webb leaning against the corner of the barn, a whiskey bottle in hand. Marcus had been a thorn in Austin's side since childhood, always competing, always trying to one-up him. He owned a smaller ranch on the other side of town and had been after Austin's breeding stock for years. "Marcus," Austin said coolly, "enjoying the dance. More than you, I would wager, squiring around that fat girl." Marcus took a swig from his bottle, his eyes mean. "Though I suppose beggars cannot be choosers. You have been alone so long you would take anything with a pulse." Delilah flinched as if struck, and Austin saw red. He stepped forward, hands clenched into fists. "Apologize, right now," Marcus laughed. "Why, I am just stating facts. Look at her. She is the size of a barn herself. I bet she eats you out of house and home." Austin hit him. One solid punch to the jaw that sent Marcus sprawling in the dirt, the whiskey bottle flying from his hand. Marcus looked up at him, shocked, blood trickling from his split lip. "I said apologize," Austin repeated, his voice deadly calm. "Apologize to the lady or I will hit you again." "Fine, fine." Marcus scrambled to his feet, hands raised. "I apologize, miss. No offense meant." "Leave," Austin said. "And if I ever hear you speak about Delilah that way again, what I just did will seem gentle." Marcus skulked off into the darkness, and Austin turned to Delilah. She was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. "Hey," he said softly, gathering her into his arms. "Do not let him upset you. He is a drunk and a fool." "I hate that he is right," Delilah sobbed against his chest. "I am fat. I am not pretty. I do not deserve you." Austin gripped her shoulders and pulled back to look her in the eyes. "He is not right. He is cruel and stupid, and his opinion means nothing." "You are beautiful, Delilah. You are the most beautiful woman I have ever known, inside and out. I am the one who does not deserve you. You really believe that?" "With all my heart." Austin kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "Do not let the words of small-minded people make you doubt yourself. You are worthy of love, my love." Delilah clung to him, and they stood there under the stars until her tears subsided. When they returned to the dance, Austin kept her close, glaring at anyone who looked at them sideways. The message was clear. Delilah Carson was under his protection, and anyone who disrespected her would answer to him. The ride home was quiet, but Delilah held his hand the whole way. Back at the ranch, Austin walked her to the door of the house and kissed her goodnight. "Thank you for defending me," she said. "No one has ever done that before." "I will always defend you," Austin promised. "You are mine now, and I take care of what is mine." The next few weeks passed in a haze of happiness. Austin and Delilah settled into their new relationship with ease, working together during the day and spending evenings talking or sitting in comfortable silence. Austin taught Delilah more about horses and ranching, and she taught him more about cooking and keeping a home. They complemented each other perfectly, he thought. Where he was rough and practical, she was soft and nurturing. Where she doubted herself, he provided confidence. One afternoon in mid-October, as they were working together to repair a section of fence, Austin brought up the subject that had been on his mind. "How would you feel about a Christmas wedding?" he asked. Delilah looked up from the post she was steadying. "Christmas? That is only 2 months away." "I know. Is that too soon?" "I thought men liked long engagements." Austin shook his head. "Not this man. I know what I want, and I want you as my wife. If you need more time, I understand, but I see no point in waiting when we both know this is right." Delilah's smile could have lit up the whole valley. "Christmas sounds perfect." They were married on December 24th, 1882, in the small church in Rico. The whole town turned out for the ceremony, and if there were whispers about the bride's size or the speed of the courtship, Austin did not hear them. He had eyes only for Delilah, who wore a simple white dress she had sewn herself and carried a bouquet of dried flowers and evergreen sprigs. She was radiant, her face glowing with joy, and when Austin slipped the gold band onto her finger, his hand trembled with emotion. "I love you," he whispered as the reverend pronounced them man and wife. "I love you too," Delilah whispered back. Their wedding night was tender and sweet. Delilah was nervous, having never been with a man, but Austin was patient and gentle, taking his time to ease her fears. When they finally came together, it felt like the most natural thing in the world, 2 pieces fitting perfectly. Afterward, they lay tangled together in Austin's bed, now their bed, and talked into the early hours of Christmas morning. "I cannot believe this is my life now," Delilah said, tracing patterns on Austin's bare chest. 3 months ago I had nothing. Now I have everything." "We have everything," Austin corrected, "and we are going to build even more together, a family, a future." "I want children," Delilah said shyly, "at least 3 or 4, then we will have 3 or 4. Austin kissed the top of her head. "Whatever makes you happy." The winter was harsh that year, with heavy snows that sometimes kept them trapped in the house for days at a time. But Austin and Delilah did not mind. They used the enforced closeness to learn more about each other, to build the foundation of their marriage. Austin taught Delilah to play chess, and she taught him to speak a little French. They read books aloud by the fire, made love in the afternoons, cooked elaborate meals together just for fun. By the time spring arrived in 1883, Delilah was pregnant. She told Austin the news on a bright April morning as they were feeding the chickens. "I have been sick every morning for a week," she said, "and my monthlies have not come. I think I am expecting." Austin swept her up in his arms, spinning her around despite her squeal of protest. "A baby. We are going to have a baby. Put me down before you hurt yourself," Delilah laughed. "I am too heavy for this." "You are perfect," Austin said, setting her down but keeping his arms around her. "How do you feel? Are you all right? Should you be resting?" "I feel fine. A little queasy, but fine." "And I am not made of glass, Austin. I can still work." I know, but let me fuss a little. I am going to be a father." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Delilah bloomed, her skin glowing and her hair thick and shiny. Austin was attentive to the point of being overbearing, constantly asking if she needed anything, if she was comfortable, if the baby was moving. Delilah bore his hovering with good humor, even when it drove her to distraction. In late November, as the first snows of the season began to fall, Delilah went into labor. Austin rode like a demon to fetch the doctor from town, and by the time they returned, Delilah was well into it. The labor lasted 14 hours, and Austin paced the downstairs like a caged animal, listening to Delilah's cries from above and feeling utterly helpless. Finally, just before dawn, a baby's wail filled the house. Austin took the stairs 2 at a time and burst into the bedroom. The doctor was cleaning a squalling infant while Delilah lay exhausted against the pillows, her hair plastered to her forehead with sweat. "It is a boy," the doctor said, handing the bundle to Austin. "A healthy boy." Austin looked down at his son, at the red, wrinkled face and tiny fists, and felt his heart expand to a size he had not known was possible. "He is perfect," he breathed. "Let me hold him," Delilah said weakly, and Austin carefully placed the baby in her arms. She looked down at their son with such love that Austin had to turn away before he started crying himself. They named him Daniel, after Austin's father. He was a good baby, sleeping well and nursing easily, and Delilah took to motherhood like she had been born for it. Austin marveled at her patience, at the way she soothed Daniel's cries and seemed to know instinctively what he needed. Life settled into a new rhythm. Austin worked the ranch while Delilah managed the house and cared for Daniel. In the evenings, they would sit together on the porch, watching Daniel sleep in his cradle and planning for the future. "I want to expand the horse breeding program," Austin said one summer evening when Daniel was 8 months old. "Maybe buy the Peterson place when old man Peterson retires. He has good grazing land." "That sounds wonderful," Delilah said. "We could use the extra space as the children grow." "Children plural," Austin teased. "Are you saying you want more, at least one more? Daniel needs a sibling." As it turned out, Daniel got 2 siblings. Delilah became pregnant again when Daniel was a year old, and this time she carried twins. The pregnancy was harder, and the doctor warned them that twins could be dangerous. Austin tried not to let his fear show, but Delilah knew him too well. "I will be fine," she assured him. "We will all be fine." The twins, a boy and a girl, were born in March of 1885. The labor was difficult and frightening, lasting nearly 20 hours, and there was a point when the doctor feared they might lose Delilah to bleeding. But she was strong, stronger than anyone gave her credit for, and she pulled through. They named the boy Aaron after Austin and the girl Lily after Delilah's mother. With 3 small children, life became chaotic. Austin hired a girl from town to help Delilah with the housework, and he took on more hands to manage the growing ranch. The horse breeding program was thriving, and Austin had a reputation throughout Colorado for producing quality animals. Money was no longer a concern, and Austin made sure Delilah had everything she needed. "You spoil me," she said one afternoon as he presented her with a new sewing machine he had ordered from Denver. "You deserve to be spoiled," Austin replied. "You have given me everything. 3 beautiful children, a happy home. This is the least I can do. I did not give you those things alone. We built them together." Austin pulled her into his arms, careful not to disturb the sleeping baby Lily in her cradle. "Fair enough. We are a good team, the best team." The years passed quickly. Daniel grew into a curious, energetic boy who loved horses as much as his father. Aaron was quieter, more thoughtful, preferring books to riding. Lily was a whirlwind, fearless and bright, keeping everyone on their toes. Austin and Delilah watched their children grow with pride and wonder. In 1890, when Daniel was 7, Aaron and Lily were 5, and Delilah was pregnant with their 4th child, tragedy struck. A late spring blizzard swept through the valley, catching everyone by surprise. Austin had been out checking on a pregnant mare when the storm hit, and by the time he made it back to the barn, he was nearly frozen. Delilah helped him inside, rubbing his hands and feet to restore circulation, getting him into dry clothes and wrapping him in blankets by the fire. But the damage was done. Austin developed pneumonia within days, the same illness that had killed his mother. "I am not leaving you," Austin said stubbornly, even as fever racked his body. "I have too much to live for." "Then fight," Delilah said, tears streaming down her face. "Fight for me. For the children, for the baby coming." Austin fought. For 2 weeks, he hovered between life and death while Delilah nursed him tirelessly. The doctor came and went, shaking his head and saying there was nothing more to be done, but Delilah refused to give up. She cooled his fever with wet cloths, spooned broth into him when he could swallow, prayed over him when he could not. And slowly, impossibly, Austin began to improve. The fever broke, his breathing eased and color returned to his face. By the time the 3rd week arrived, he was sitting up in bed and demanding real food. "You scared me," Delilah said, collapsing into the chair beside the bed. She was exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her pregnant belly prominent. "I thought I was going to lose you." "I told you I was not leaving," Austin said, taking her hand. "I meant it. We have too many plans, too much life left to live." Delilah burst into tears, and Austin pulled her onto the bed beside him, holding her as she cried. "I love you so much," she sobbed. "I cannot do this without you." "You will never have to," Austin promised. "I am here. I am staying." Their 4th child, another girl they named Rose, was born that summer. Austin had fully recovered by then, though the pneumonia had left him with a lingering cough that sometimes kept him up at night. Delilah fussed over him constantly, making sure he dressed warmly and did not overexert himself. "I am fine," Austin would protest, but secretly he loved her attention. After nearly dying, he had a new appreciation for every moment with his family. The ranch continued to prosper. By 1895, Austin owned 300 acres and employed a dozen men. His horses were sought after across the West, and he could command top dollar for them. The ranch house had been expanded to accommodate the growing family, with new bedrooms added and a proper dining room installed. Delilah had become a pillar of the Rico community. She organized church socials, taught Sunday school, and was known for her charity work. The girl who had arrived at Austin's barn with nothing but a carpetbag had transformed into a confident, respected woman. She still struggled sometimes with her weight, with the voices from her past that told her she was not good enough, but Austin made sure she knew how much she was loved. "You are the most beautiful woman in Colorado," he would tell her, and he meant it. Age had only enhanced her beauty in his eyes, deepening her kindness and strengthening her grace. In 1899, Daniel left for college in Denver, the first Fletcher to pursue higher education. Austin was proud beyond measure, even as he missed his eldest son terribly. Aaron showed an interest in law and talked about following his brother to school eventually. Lily and Rose were growing into young ladies, though Lily still preferred riding horses to learning embroidery. One evening in the summer of 1900, Austin and Delilah sat on the porch watching the sunset. The children were all occupied elsewhere, and for once they had the house to themselves. Austin reached over and took Delilah's hand. "You ever think about that day I found you in the barn?" he asked. "All the time," Delilah said. "I was so scared. I had no idea what would happen to me. I almost sent you away. I know. I am so glad you did not." Austin lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it. "You saved me, Delilah. I was drowning in grief and loneliness, and you pulled me out. You gave me a reason to live again. You saved me too. You gave me a home, a family, love. Everything I never thought I would have." Delilah leaned her head on his shoulder. "I was so sure no one would ever want me, that I would spend my life alone. And then you saw past what everyone else saw. You saw my soul. I saw a beautiful, gentle, strong woman. That is what I still see every day. We have built a good life, haven't we?" Austin looked out over his land, his thriving ranch, and thought of his children scattered throughout the house. He thought of the years they had shared, the challenges they had overcome, the love that had only grown deeper with time. "The best life," he agreed. "And it is not over yet. We have many more years ahead of us." They did indeed. Austin and Delilah Fletcher grew old together on the ranch in Rico. They watched their children marry and have children of their own. Daniel took over the horse breeding program, expanding it even further. Aaron became a successful lawyer in Denver but visited often. Lily married a rancher from a neighboring town, and Rose became a teacher. Through it all, Austin and Delilah remained each other's greatest love and strongest support. They weathered droughts and economic downturns, celebrated births and mourned deaths, and never once did Austin regret the day he had let the heavyset girl with the gentle soul into his life. On their 50th wedding anniversary in 1932, their family gathered to celebrate. Dozens of children and grandchildren filled the ranch house, spilling out onto the porch and lawn. Austin, now 76, stood to make a toast with Delilah, 71, beside him. "50 years ago," he began, his voice still strong despite his age, "this woman walked into my barn and changed my life forever. I did not know it then, but I was meeting my soulmate, my partner, the love of my life." He turned to Delilah, whose face was still beautiful to him despite the lines and gray hair. "You have made every day an adventure and every challenge bearable. You have given me a family I am proud of and a love I treasure. Here is to 50 more years." Everyone laughed, knowing that 50 more years was unlikely, but they raised their glasses anyway. Delilah kissed Austin's cheek, her eyes shining with tears. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," Austin whispered back. "Always and forever." They danced that night, just as they had at their first town dance all those years ago. Austin's knees ached and Delilah's feet hurt, but they moved across the floor together, lost in their own world. Their children and grandchildren watched with smiles, seeing the love that had endured through 5 decades. Austin and Delilah lived another 8 years together. Austin passed first, in the spring of 1940, dying peacefully in his sleep at the age of 84. Delilah held his hand as he took his last breath, whispering words of love and promising to see him again soon. She followed him 6 months later, her heart simply giving out one November morning. The family buried her next to Austin in the small cemetery on the hill overlooking the valley, the same cemetery where his parents rested. On her headstone they inscribed, "Beloved wife, mother, grandmother, she loved with her whole soul." The ranch passed to Daniel, who continued the Fletcher legacy. And for generations after, the family would tell the story of how it all began. How a heavyset girl arrived at a lonely cowboy's barn, how he saw past her appearance to the gentle soul beneath, and how their love transformed both their lives and created a legacy that would endure. It was a love story for the ages, proving that true beauty lies not in outward appearance but in the kindness of the heart and the strength of the soul. Austin had seen that in Delilah from the very first day, and she had seen the same in him. Together, they had built something extraordinary out of loneliness and second chances. Their story became a treasured part of Fletcher family history, passed down through children and grandchildren, a reminder that love can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the greatest gifts come in packages the world overlooks. Austin and Delilah had found each other when both needed it most, and their love had not only healed their individual wounds, but had created something beautiful and lasting. On quiet evenings, when the family gathered at the ranch that Austin had built and Delilah had made a home, they could almost feel the presence of their ancestors. The love that had filled those walls for 58 years seemed to linger, a testament to what two people could build when they saw each other truly and loved without reservation. Daniel Fletcher, now an old man himself, would sometimes walk to the cemetery on the hill and stand before his parents' graves. He would remember his mother's gentle hands and warm smile, his father's steady presence and fierce protection. He would remember the love that had surrounded him from his first breath, the example his parents had set of what a marriage should be. "Thank you," he would whisper to them, knowing somehow they could hear. "Thank you for showing me what love looks like." And if the wind carried a whisper back, it sounded like his mother's laugh and his father's voice, forever intertwined, forever together. The ranch continued to thrive under Daniel's care and later under his son's care. The Fletcher horses remained famous throughout Colorado and beyond, sought after for their quality and temperament. But more than the business success, more than the land and the money, the true legacy of Austin and Delilah Fletcher was the love they had shared and the family they had built. Their great-grandchildren would grow up hearing stories about the heavyset girl who had walked into a barn with nothing but a carpetbag and hope, and the lonely cowboy who had seen her true beauty. They would learn that real love is not about appearances or social standing, but about recognizing a kindred soul and cherishing them every day. In Rico, Colorado, the Fletcher Ranch became a landmark, a symbol of endurance and love. Travelers passing through would point to the sprawling property and recount the romantic tale of its founders. The story took on an almost mythical quality, embellished and romanticized with each retelling, but at its core the truth remained. Two unlikely people had found each other and built something beautiful. On the wall of the ranch house, in a place of honor, hung a photograph taken on Austin and Delilah's 25th wedding anniversary. In it, they stood together on the porch, surrounded by their children. Austin's arm was around Delilah's waist, and they were both laughing at something someone had said. The joy and love captured in that moment was undeniable, radiating from the old photograph like sunlight. Beneath the photo, a small plaque read, "Love sees with the soul, not the eyes." Austin and Delilah Fletcher, 1882–1940. It was the perfect summary of their story, of a love that had transcended society's narrow definitions of beauty and worth. Austin had looked at Delilah and seen not her size or her plain features, but her gentle soul, her kind heart, her incredible strength. And Delilah had looked at Austin and seen not a lonely rancher but a good man with so much love to give, just waiting for the right person to receive it. Their meeting had been orchestrated by George Thompson, who had seen two lonely people in need of each other. He had taken a chance, sending a heavyset girl with few prospects to a grieving cowboy's ranch, and that chance had blossomed into one of the great love stories of Rico's history. George had attended their 50th anniversary celebration, an old man himself by then, and Austin had publicly thanked him for his matchmaking. "You gave me the greatest gift of my life," Austin had said, his voice thick with emotion. "You sent me Delilah, and she gave me everything." Now, long after all the principals had passed, their story lived on. It lived on in the ranch that still stood strong, in the descendants that carried their blood and their values, in the love that had proved stronger than prejudice or hardship or time itself. In the town of Rico, where mining had given way to tourism, and the Wild West had become history, people still told the story of Austin and Delilah Fletcher. They told it to remind themselves that love can triumph over adversity, that true beauty comes from within, and that sometimes the most unlikely pairings create the strongest bonds. The barn where Delilah had first appeared, carpetbag in hand and hope in her heart, had been rebuilt several times over the years, but it stood on the same spot. Sometimes, on quiet mornings when the light hit just right, you could almost see a young woman standing in the doorway and a young man looking up from his work to meet her eyes for the first time. That moment, that connection, had changed everything. It had saved 2 lives, created countless more, and left a legacy of love that would endure for generations. All because a cowboy looked at a heavyset girl and saw not what the world saw, but the truth of who she was. All because a girl who had been told she was worthless found someone who knew her value. Their love story was not dramatic in the conventional sense. There were no grand gestures or sweeping declarations, at least not at first. Instead, it was built on daily kindnesses, on seeing and being seen, on choosing each other every day for 58 years. It was built on coffee shared in the morning and stories told at night, on weathering storms together and celebrating joys together, on building a life one day at a time. And in the end, that was the most romantic story of all. Not love at first sight, but love that grew and deepened with time. Not passion that burned bright and fast, but affection that smoldered steadily for a lifetime. Not a fairy tale, but something better. A true story of 2 real people who found in each other everything they had been missing. Austin Fletcher had been a good man who had lost his way in grief. Delilah Carson had been a good woman who had been made to feel worthless. Together, they had found their way home. Together, they had proved that love is not about perfection but about acceptance, not about beauty but about soul, not about what the world thinks but about what 2 hearts know. Their story ended as all stories must, with death and parting. But even in ending, it continued. It continued in every Fletcher who inherited their capacity for love, in every visitor to the ranch who heard their tale and took heart, in every person who looked past appearances to see the soul beneath. The heavyset girl and the lonely cowboy had become legend, but they had been real. Their love had been real. And real love, true love, never truly dies. It lives on in memory and legacy, in the lives it touched and the hearts it changed. As the sun set over the Fletcher Ranch in Rico, Colorado, painting the mountains gold and purple, the land seemed to hold the echo of all the love that had been lived there. Austin's steadfast devotion and Delilah's gentle strength had soaked into the soil, making it sacred ground. Their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren walked that land knowing they stood on the foundation their ancestors had built, a foundation of love that had withstood every test. And somewhere, in whatever lies beyond this life, Austin and Delilah Fletcher were together still, laughing and loving, their souls intertwined for eternity just as they had been on earth. The cowboy who had seen with his soul, and the woman whose soul had shone so bright, united forever in the love that had defined their lives and blessed all who came after. Their story was complete, a circle closed, a life well lived and a love well loved. It was everything a love story should be, heartfelt, honest, and true. From that September morning in 1882, when Delilah appeared in Austin's barn to their final resting place on the hill, their journey had been one of grace, growth, and abiding love. They had proved that the best love stories are not about beautiful people finding each other, but about seeing the beauty in each other that the world overlooks. They had shown that a gentle soul and an open heart matter more than any physical attribute. They had demonstrated that true love grows stronger with time, deepening and maturing into something precious beyond measure. And so the story of the Heavyset girl and the cowboy became timeless, a reminder that love is always possible, always waiting, for those brave enough to see with their souls and love with their whole hearts. Austin and Delilah Fletcher had been brave enough, and their reward had been a lifetime of happiness and a legacy that would never fade. The end of their story was also the beginning, for every generation that heard it learned that they too could find such love, if only they looked beyond the surface to the soul beneath. And that lesson, passed down through the years, was perhaps their greatest gift of all.